I think a lot of people have the idea that human beings and human societies continually get better. And I think that's largely true overall on a long term perspective, but I think that we're continually progressing and regressing, right? I
Yeah.
think that we're moving forward in some ways, but then in other ways, like clearly certain things are getting worse. I mean, you can pull up statistics and say, okay, let's look at let's look at marriage and family. Let's look at marriage and family and the world, the situation children are coming into and growing up in. Let's look at divorce rates, marriage rates, so on. Let's even look at birth rates, right? And on all those fronts, it's like, okay, that's getting worse, right? That's
Oh yeah,
getting worse.
easily.
You've got more and more kids growing up without their father around, more kids growing up in high, divorce rates going up slightly, coming down recently, but generally going trending upwards over the decades. More and more people just dropping out of marriage, more and more marriage, all that stuff, the whole family structure. That's clearly declined. But then you look at other aspects. If you look at life expectancy and medicine and the I would say genuine tolerance and fairness and equality under the law and the way that people are generally treated, as in, don't need to go that far back to people being segregation days in certain places, people being brutalized and attacked based off immutable characteristics, so on and so forth. Go back a little bit further, we're back to slavery days. So I think that our societies have definitely advanced and progressed in some ways, but then with some of those bad ideas that are getting pushed and some of the new ones, you can look at them and you can see how they're even affecting young people and be like, okay, wait, we've overcorrected here, and you're now getting to a point where, in the name of progress, you're regressing again.
Yeah.
What do you think?
How can I say this? This is going to be very controversial,
Go
right?
ahead, bro. Go ahead.
But how a lot of things I don't think we've progressed in. I think it still goes on more so. Now, we as humans, we look at things sort of at face value. So we look at slavery and be like, okay, that's the worst. That's bottom tier. But I think it's worse now because when you look at, we're just talking about segregation, right? Even forced segregation. A lot of black communities were faring better. Our families were more intact, and statistically, we were faring a lot better when we were forced to do something. Versus now, I feel like they sort of brainwashed us into being mental slaves. Now, there's an argument. Now, the debate is what's worse, being physically a slave or mentally a slave. And I would actually say mental, because then you become self-destructive. We've gotten all of that, right? We got all the equality. Black people got all the equality you can never dream of, right? Matter of fact, in some cases, it's like we actually get a little leg up in this country. What do we do? What have we done with it? Our 2 generations ago. Matter of fact, my grandparents and my grandma who's still alive watched Louis Farrakhan. She wow. But even she look at the crap we do now and be like, what the crap are y'all doing?
Yeah.
Like, what is going on? What is this?
Yeah.
They're confused with all the freedom we got.
With that said, I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but would you literally be saying that things are not better compared to, like, let's not even talk segregation. Let's talk actual chattel transatlantic slavery days. I mean, surely things are better now than then. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
yeah,
would you not?
I mean,
I know I'm not trying to put you in any type of Kanye slavery was a choice kind of trap.
I'm just me and Kanye a little different. I stand on everything I say. In some ways, yes, because we were literal slaves. Even though it's deeper than that, we were slaves on multiple continents, and Africans pretty much sold us into it. So that's that. But we were literal slaves, right? We had no freedom. We were physical slaves. And of course, at face value, we say it's much better. But more so, I'm talking about fresh out of slavery. I'm talking about the few years after slavery. Go look at the single motherhood rates 15 years, 10 years after slavery. It's gonna be hard to find some statistics, but it's easy to find some states statistics in the South. Well, after that, our single motherhood rates was low. Our families were intact. Even when you go to the let's look at post segregation. If I'm not mistaken, in the 90s, I think was it Manhattan. It was some city in Brooklyn. The black median household incomes actually did surpass whites in a few of those areas, but it was because of immigrants. So I guess that'd be unfair to use that statistic. I got to keep it 100 with you. But when you look at fresh out of slavery, I'm talking about during. Let's take out slavery, right? Let's use segregation.
Okay.
In the peak segregation, Jim Crow laws, everything you need to know. Our families were faring better under actual oppression. And all I'm saying is when you look at us now, we don't have that. We're faring worse, but I think we're still mental slaves.
When you say we, are you referring to Black Americans as an overall demographic? Okay.
As an overall, I'm not talking about me myself personally, but I am a Black American, so I gotta, you know what I'm saying? The majority of us, I think it's mental slavery. And when you view things that way, now it's about which one is worse. And most people are going to say, well, physical slavery is worse because, it's literal physical slavery. Pulls on the heartstrings, pulls on the emotional strings, and it's all bad. I'm not saying one is good and one is bad. I was making a comparison about which one is worse. With this one, mental slavery, I feel like we're more self-destructive. We're putting ourselves in bondage. We're actually choosing bondage at this point. And it's because of brainwashing. They're getting us to choose slavery. To me, that's some of the wildest things you can do. Get somebody to choose it. Ooh, I don't know, man. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying slavery was good. I'm not saying go back to slavery. I'm just saying we're in mental slavery right now. I think it's just as bad, just in a different way.
When you say mental slavery, what specifically do you mean by that? I have an allusion to what you mean, but what do you mean by that?
Well, most people think I'm just talking about politically, right? Voting Democrat. I'm really not. We didn't really start overwhelmingly, you know what I'm saying, for the fact checkers, overwhelmingly vote Democrat until after the Lyndon B. Johnson and Barry Goldwater thing. When I say mental slavery, I'm talking about, think about when they introduced full scale welfare. It was literally promoted to the Black community, not the Black community only, but it was a heavy push, just like Planned Parenthood now. It was a heavy push for it in the Black community. If you read what it is, I mean, I got family members that went through it. My dad went through it. When you look at what it is, right? You literally have to choose the government or a family. Literally. And if they package it real good for you, if they tell you it'll help you, if you're struggling and things of that nature, you cannot have a male. If you get caught with a male figure in that house, you will get taken off government assistance so quick. My aunt, she's just younger than me. Sorry for her, my cousin. My aunt got kicked out of Section 8 for this reason. Got caught. You get kicked out of it for even thinking you about to have a family. How is that not slavery? They're literally incentivizing. They're incentivizing you to not get married and not have a family, not have a father figure in the home. How is that not a more intelligent way of slavery?
Mm-hmm.